All right. Hello, welcome to the August Mac and Min Meetup. It's been about 2 months since we were last together, and a bunch of stuff has happened, so we're just going to go right into it. Talk about what's new, and specifically, we'll talk about the updates that were released for macOS Mojave, iOS 12, tvOS, and watchOS. We'll talk about Office 2019/365, as well as the security roundup and items of interest, and we'll end with conferences. So going right into it, while we were away, Apple released macOS Mojave 10.14.6, and very shortly after the beginning of this month, they released a supplemental update mainly for T2 Macs, but this addresses the awake from sleep issue that's been affecting a lot of these Macs. So yes, they bumped the build number a little bit. If you download Mojave now or update to Mojave now, though, you will get the newer build number than the original build number. Also, it improves. They've made improvements to SMB file sharing reliability just in time for Catalina to come along, and you have to approve any network share connections now. It also addresses an issue where file sharing connections potentially drop. So there were a bunch of there's a bunch of CVEs, 47, affecting 22 different processes. Of note, and it's not covered, we don't really cover it in the slides, but there was some updates to the 10.14 security update addressing a particular CVE that now just went right out of my head. But yeah, it was something that was only disclosed last week, so they updated the CVE for that, and another reason why you should be on top of your updates. So, moving on to iOS 12. So 12.4 was released at the same time as everything else last month. The big thing about this is that you can now do data migration wirelessly from your old phone to the new phone. I'm sure the folks here at the store love doing that now. There's also some improvements to Apple News and a few other things. Fixes an issue with the walkie-talkie app. There's basically was a security issue that I think they disabled it on iOS 12, and then now that they've patched it, they've re-enabled it. So a lot of the same CVEs that were affecting, because they all share the same code bases. So 38 on iOS 12, affecting, 15 different processes. So also of note is they made a backport fix, a rare, extremely rare backport fix for iOS 10 and iOS 9 that fixes a specific GPS issue, which improves accuracy and performance. So, this is almost unheard of that they actually do that, because once on iOS they only support the current, so this is extremely rare.
They must have gotten sued somehow to make them do that.
I don't know. I didn't have a chance to look into it. So, tvOS and watchOS. While we were away, tvOS 12.4 was released. This looks like just a regular small bug fix feature, not really any features, so it's probably just a small bug fix update. Security, 33 CVEs, 10 processes. watchOS 5.3 also released at the same time. Again, mainly just bug fixes and security patches. So moving on to Office 2019/365. So while we were away, both 16.27 and 16.28 were released. 16.20, I forgot to update the version number. 16.28 was released earlier this week, so it's like the new hotness.
What's hot about it? Because I just got that update.
The big thing about 16.28 is that Microsoft has changed some of their privacy stuff, and it's basically they're allowing users to have more control over what Office does and the kind of information it sends back to Microsoft. It's more for, we'll talk into it
Yeah,
a little bit
yeah,
here.
it's interesting.
Also, while we're away, 2016 we also had the releases, and we're at the 13 now, 16.16.13, and auto update 4.13 and 14 were also released. The big thing there is that you can now set a deadline for the updates, and you can set that by a configuration profile. And you can do, you can either do a set amount of days after the update is released, or you can set a particular date for a particular deadline. Like if you needed something, everybody to be on a certain version by a certain date. And I forget his name, I should have included the blog, but one of the guys, if you go to the Microsoft Auto Update channel in Slack, I forget his name, but he has an article posted on exactly what you need to set and how, and it has screenshots of all the blogs, the problems that show up. So basically what ends up happening is, you'll see the regular notifications that it needs to be updated. Once the deadline passes, the hard pass, you get a dialog box that pops up with a countdown timer. And once the timer is up, and then it quits the app, and then does its update and does all that. So,
It's not Paul.
so that's
Not Paul.
what?
Paul.
Not Paul Bowden?
It's not Paul Bowden. Well, I mean, Paul and Microsoft were the ones who did this, but the person who explains it all is not Paul.
Tim
Forget what it is. But the new privacy options, which I have a link to give them out there, are basically, is, as I said, consumers now have the option to disable services and the types of information that get sent back to Microsoft. And we're talking services like spell check, Microsoft error reporting, things along those lines. You can turn off services for like OneDrive and all that. And you get those options if you're a regular consumer. You get like all these different options to turn off these different services. Although the link to that, I think, goes to, if you're in the Office channel, Paul posted his slides, and I think Eric Holton made a PDF. But he basically goes out, there's this chart of what is like core services, what's like main services, and at the very end is optional. If you are a business or education, or has like a certain Microsoft license level where you get everything, if you're an organization at that point, then really the only option is you get the optional connected services, which is being able to download a few things, the Microsoft error reporting that I mentioned, and also the ability to install add-ins. So the user could turn those off because the dialog box will, when you launch 1628 for the first time, an app in 1628 for the first time, you get a new privacy dialog box that pops up, and that will walk you through that if that option is enabled. You can manage that option to either be disabled or enabled. And if it's managed enabled, then they just see the big first privacy window, and then it goes on. But that window can't be suppressed. I know we can suppress a lot of these pop-ups with the other things. This one can't be suppressed. And what Paul was saying on the call was that they're doing a lot of things where they're essentially setting preferences as the user in the cloud. So as they go forward, some user settings may override local settings, but none of that's happening yet. But there'd be things like they turn off add-ins that may override in the future version of Office. But like so they want, in order for it to go with the consistent experience across platforms and devices, they're moving some preferences essentially to store in the cloud for the particular user, and that gets applied to regardless of the device. So this is kind of the first step towards that. So that's why is that's why they can't suppress, or they won't let us suppress that optional dialog box that shows up in the startup now. But if you're managing anything else in Office that's not related to this, then those should all work fine. The intelligent services thing that used to pop up, that's gone. So if you're setting that, then it's basically inert from 1628 going forward. There was another dialogue showing up in 1627 that only showed up in 1627. So if you were suppressing it or not, that was only for 1627. It's not showing up again. So that's basically those changes. So if you manage the optional connected experiences, then the user has nothing to do, so they only see the privacy warning, and then they click OK, and then that's it. That's the only box they see. If you don't manage that, then they go through. Then it walks you through the step, and the very end takes you to the new privacy pane in preferences in whatever app that they opened, and they have the checkbox there that's default enabled, but the user can disable it. So
Do you think this is coming about because of GDPR?
it's definitely coming about because of GDPR.
Okay.
Yes.
Logical.
Yes.
That's logical, yeah.
Just so I understand, there's no way to suppress all of that?
There is no way to suppress the new privacy dialog, correct. So, unless you are in 2019 DL.
Oh, okay, great.
So,
Yeah.
yes. And then there is a command, there is a preference to suppress that. But if you are an R365 customer, you can't suppress it.
We have computer labs and we just want people to be able to open Word and stuff.
Right. Yeah. It's definitely the command is definitely in Paul's slides. So you'll just need to, I mean, the key is in Paul's slide. You just need to know where it is. Oh, the other thing is that some of the settings are now, like you used to have to set some settings in individual applications. Most of those are now in the com.microsoft.office domains going forward, so you only set it once, and it applies to all apps. So those are the changes for Office. Definitely look up Paul's slides. I think he posted them in the Office channel. And see all the different changes. And he went through a lot, explained everything. But if there's things that you're managing, this is the new way to manage it.
Cool.
So moving on, we do our security roundup. So one of the big things that happened while we were away is Apple expanded their bug bounty program. I think they did that at Black Hat. Yeah, I think it was Black Hat,
Right.
which is recently. So the Apple's bug bounty program now includes macOS, and they give away quite a bit of money if you find flaws in that. They also raised their maximum award to $1 million, but that's only for iOS and only if you find a kernel exploit that can be a kernel bug that can be exploited without user interaction. So, which is, well, I guess I could see where they would give you $1 million for that.
So everybody find a way.
Find
them.
Do it. Also announced at Black Hat is Apple is now offering essentially hackable iOS devices to security researchers. Essentially, what it is, it's kind of like a jailbroken iPhone, but with like more debugging stuff. It's not fully jailbroken, but it's just like you can do a lot more debugging on it.
Kali iOS.
And but so apparently anybody can apply to get one of these devices, but they're only going to give it to legitimate security researchers. So I don't know how they're determining that, but probably through some ways. But we'll see. If you get one,
Sure,
let us know.
It will be on the way.
We're ready while you're typing.
Why are we having caviar this time?
So another thing that happened a weird way is that apparently it was discovered that any Electron app, which includes Slack, Skype,
Oh.
Teams, I don't even know, Visual Studio Code, anything that uses Electron base can be backdoored. And if you read the article, basically there's a little. It gets a very technical, but essentially they're calling it a feature of the way the electron apps work that that allows this to happen. And based on some of the things I've read, it's like developers consider it a feature, not a bug, so they're not inclined to close it at the moment. So.
After that whole GitHub thread about
Well,
updates.
as nerfing it so hard. As I said, so.
We all love Slack though.
Yeah. The other big news that happened while I was away is Jamf acquired digital security, and of course Patrick Wardle for whatever, an undisclosed amount of money. But essentially they got Patrick Wardle as an employee. And if you don't know who he is, he's one of the preeminent Mac security researchers in the world. He's released lots of different products for Mac security, and now that he's on Jamf, he's probably going to be writing a lot of them for Jamf, like whatever. I don't recall off the top of my head what digital security, what products they offer, but that's just because I didn't bother looking it up. But I'm sure that those are not going to become Jamf products.
Nice.
So, but Patrick has his own side business, the Objective-C stuff. And according to Patrick, both that and his objective by the C conference are going to stay wholly independent, not be part of Jamf whatsoever. So don't worry, they're only just getting, Jamf is just paying Patrick's salary. He's looking to do that other stuff on the side. So I already heard that he's starting to build a team over in Jamf. So.
I think they bought
So,
all his publishing rights too.
What?
Yeah, 'cause he's written a lot of stuff.
He has written a lot of stuff. If it's under his Objective-C brand, it's going to still be
Still
free,
is?
still
Alright.
be Objective Source.
Because if they-
If you're part of his Patreon, you get it for free anyway. So.
Jamf bought that, they had to give him serious money.
Yeah, I think that was probably negotiated because it sounds like his professional work is what they are buying, and he's an employee of Jamf now. So. So moving on anyway. So your VPN app that you're using right now is probably filled with frauds, as we recently discovered. This affects specifically Fortinet, PulseCure, and there's one more.
Not Cisco.
Not Cisco.
Not
No,
Cisco.
no,
Not Cisco.
no.
Not Cisco.
Not even connect, yes.
Not Cisco.
Fortinet, who else?
Fortinet, and it was in my notes. It
Was it
was
F5?
Doesn't matter.
PulseCure.
Oh.
Pulse. Very popular.
Let me just see.
Isn't
It wasn't RSA, was it?
Palo
Palo
Alto.
Alto?
Oh, nuts.
You declined that purchase.
I was holding my breath.
No, Palo Alto. So I think the flaws, because it's just a flaw in SSL that they're all using. So it's an SSL VPN app. But these particular ones, those particular three were the ones called out. It sounds like the flaw was discovered back in April, so your vendor should have a patch for this. So if you're not on the latest version, you probably want to make sure you're on the latest version, or at least check with your vendor or your security team to see if you can get that.
Vendors are great.
Hey,
Lots
what
to
you talking
talk
about,
about still in here.
I don't think there's enough side after that comment.
So, Data Spy, or SPI, or however you want to say that. Essentially, there's a slew of browser extensions for Chrome and some for Firefox, although it's not as prolific on Firefox, that basically exfiltrate data without your consent, for the most part. The extensions themselves will say, by installing this, you accept our thing. But what ends up happening is that a lot of the data that they exfiltrate, which is stuff about where you're going and the websites you visit and the things you do there, that's all being shipped off to a third party. So that's bad for the most part, for all of it. And that's kind of like a legal gray area, according to the articles I've been reading about it. Is that if you accept a thing, can the company then shift it off to a third party, applying consent? So I don't think the law is really settled around that yet. But yeah, but it's still kind of like bad in general. So most of the browser extensions in question, though, have been banned by Google. But if you still have it installed, it's still sending data. So you might want to double check if you use any Google extensions that seem to be like that. And the link will take you to the article, which will tell you about some of them. And I think there's a full list of those browser extensions. So you definitely want to take a look at that. So this is a list of all the Mac OS malware that was really discovered or found in the first half of 2019. And I forget who put it out, but
Sentinel-1.
Sentinel-1, yes, that's right. So yeah. So we thank them for that, and look forward to seeing what else gets released or discovered and in the second half of 2019.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So of course the Capital One breach. Did everybody get their $125?
Nope.
No,
Oh, that
I
was,
had the credit card, I didn't.
That was the other one, right?
What's in your wallet?
Yeah, how do you get the
So you got the credit reporting instead?
Didn't get anything.
So,
Yeah, I didn't check.
Yeah,
Maybe-
Thanks,
Yes. So yeah.
You know, Jeff's on
Equifax.
AWS as well.
Thanks,
Well,
Equifax.
this is the thing. This is the thing. It's from everything that I've been reading, it's not. The fault wasn't with AWS. The fault was with how Capital One configured their AWS buckets.
Wow.
So essentially, they kind of, it's really, really simplifying it. But essentially, they kind of left it at default settings, and people went and nobody changed it because they're a financial company, not an IT company. Yep. So, and of course, the last big thing is Broadcom Technologies has agreed to buy Symantec's entire enterprise division.
Really?
So, yes, so Symantec Endpoint Protection, Symantec DLP, Symantec EDRC, Symantec Firewall, or whatever. So it's like all the consumer stuff will stay Symantec. So all the Norton stuff is Symantec. And Broadcom buys all this. So if you're a Symantec customer, you've gotten an email from Symantec saying, nothing changes. The sale will close at the end of the year. There'll be no changes to how we do things, until the sale closes, and then all of that's off.
Broadcom is a hardware company, or they buy software?
That's a good question. So I think the Bloomberg article that this links to was saying that they've been interested in buying that sort of things for a while, and they tried to buy somebody else before and it failed. And so
I think it was McAfee.
I think it was McAfee.
Oh, another wonderful product.
So yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Not affiliated with John McAfee anymore,
when
as they
you read that,
they
you
continually
start to
try
think,
to
what
say.
Oh, see the documentary about it, by the way. It's
Yes.
great.
Well,
It is.
So-
News again.
So who knows? Moving on to items of interest for our Jamf friends, Jamf 10.14 was released, and 10.14.1 was released today, which fixes a particular issue. I think that had to do with pre-stage enrollments with the package, and pre-stage was over 1,000 Macs assigned to them.
It was very specific.
It was very specific, yes. But they did release that because, they released another point release to fix that because I'm sure it hit people or a particular large customer pretty badly. So, also, Auto Packager lives after like a year and a half, a year and some change. Auto Packager 1.5 is finally released. So this I think brings both dark mode support and makes the necessary notarization and signing changes for Catalina, so that it doesn't break when you run it in Catalina, because that would probably make a lot of people sad. So it's Auto Packager is still kind of languishing. I mean, yes, they just came out with this version, but there really hasn't been anything new added to it, or things haven't been fixed, and it's still waiting for somebody to take it over and do stuff with it.
Well, the one article I have, somebody at was it
Linda Group?
Linda Group now took ownership of it.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, so I think this was just the quick fix to get
Okay.
it working properly again, and the implication of the article seemed to be that there would be ongoing development.
Oh,
Why is
well, there we
it-
go.
Why is this the stepchild of IT?
Um,
I like Auto Packager.
Well,
The
because
article was really good at explaining that the type of people that would use this are exactly the type of people that would contribute code, because it saved them time, and
Yes.
they've moved on to other things.
yes, like all the people who could contribute to Audio Packager and maintain it and do that are essentially just running the Auto Packager command line with their own scripts and their own things anyway. So that's one of those things. So Friends of Fleetsmith put out an article that's essentially a enterprise security roadmap, which addresses the kind of things that Apple has hinted at but never said outright, but basically shares a lot of the same thinking, and it's also more of like a wish list for Fleetsmith for app that Apple should adopt. So it's definitely an interesting read, and I encourage you to check it out. In sad news, Eric Berglund steps away from Profile Creator, and Profile Creator is now looking for a new maintainer to try and continue work on that. It's been an incredibly useful tool. I know it started off as Objective-C, but I think it's now all fully Swift. So if anybody has any Swift background or wants to dabble, this might be a project.
I'm wondering if he stepped away because the writing's on the wall that Apple's going to remove the
No.
ability.
If there was extenuating family circumstances, so like personal life
Right.
intruded. So
I should have read it.
yeah. So remember FileMaker?
Remember Claris?
Remember FileMaker? They rebranded themselves recently at their FileMaker conference. I think it was like last week, and they are now Claris again. So apparently, one of the things that they are planning to do is actually develop more software than just FileMaker. So that necessitated this rebrand. And apparently, they spent months looking for a name and just decided just to go back to Claris at the very end. As you know, as corporations are wont to do.
So we're going to see the resurgence of Claris Works again.
I don't think so, but you never know.
Claris works with.
Well, that became
So Claris used to be an Apple company.
Apple released an update to their USB-C adapters that will now do 60 hertz 4K outputs.
Now
It's a software.
crazy, but we're talking
No.
about.
I know
Okay,
I think it's
hardware.
a,
I was ready to
it's
say.
a
What, you mean
board
the
update on the
Oh,
actual adapter.
wait, the Falcons?
No.
No.
No,
Apple
the
one.
Apple actual adapter.
There's not an
These
Apple
things.
now? What?
What? Which one?
This one.
The little thing that Serge is using.
Oh.
Which you can't see on camera.
Yes.
Oh, I have one.
Don't they
Yeah,
run
the
little iOS?
3-port
The
one.
3-port one that's
that has
$75.
power,
Yeah.
power USB
Yeah.
and
They
HDMI.
updated that?
Cool.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah,
All right,
the
I
new
gotta
one.
plug that in.
Basically, it's because
They upgraded
the mini
iOS.
book is no more.
An
Yes.
iteration of Claris.
Parallels desktop.
So, and Parallels Desktop just released version 15 this week. And the big thing with this is that, well, there's a couple things. The big but, it does come with Catalina support. It's fully ready for Catalina. If you're still testing for Catalina, this might be a better option than being with Fusion right now, because it's easier to build a Catalina VM in Parallel Desktop 15 than it is in Fusion currently. Although we expect Fusion to get the updates for Catalina shortly, hopefully. But if you're testing, this might be an option. There's also, I think they also, the other thing is Parallels Desktop 15 now uses Metal to do DirectX support, so you can actually play real games in Parallels. So
Real games instead of the graphics.
real games. So
Not just go back to Coder and Coder 2
right.
for a fifth time.
Fusion.
And last but not least, the FAA has banned the MacBook Pro models that are at risk of catching fire. I'm not sure how they're going to be able to determine which one is a fire hazard and which one is not, especially after they get them repaired. But hey, one reason to leave your MacBook Pro at home.
There was an article.
No, you go.
There was an article about how they may go about doing it, but I don't think they're saying like you might have to, if you want to prove it, you have to open up your computer, turn it on, and show them that it's not an affected model. If it is, you have to show that you repaired it. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
I think
so
you gotta put the serial number on the website, but that's assuming the website's actually tracking the serial number. So
But
after
like,
they've been repaired.
you think about it, like
My nephew
all
has
MacBooks
one
look the
of
same
those.
from what 2012
Yeah.
to 2016
yep.
Yeah, I think they're.
or 15 or something.
I thought it was just the 2015 model.
Yeah,
right, but they all look
2015
the
model.
same.
But
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
I mean with
Well,
the
the
non-touch
20
bar,
the
they all look the
2016s and the 17s, it's slight color change.
Right,
You know,
and it's a touch bar.
And then
And
it-
the
the
touch bar.
Yes.
the touch
Yeah,
bar.
yeah.
But like, do you think a TSA person's gonna care?
Yeah.
No.
They're just gonna go,
They're
it's a
not
Mac.
gonna know.
It's gonna be a
That's
Mac.
why
Just
it's
want
the
you to,
battery
like-
issue. Nothing to do with the computer
I wonder if
itself.
it's a touch
Right,
bar.
but the battery could catch fire. But the battery itself is not removable.
Yeah.
Have there been a lot of cases of that actually happening?
No.
No.
I don't think
But
so.
the
There's a
FAA
couple
has done this in the
online
past for
Well,
smaller things.
yes, and lithium-ion batteries catching fire mid-flight is a thing that happens.
Yeah.
Often,
Definitely
apparently. Yeah.
So Apple does
Apparently
not
it's
ship
often.
these things out through the air. They ship them all through the
They all
ground
ship
to their
them ground,
store,
yes. They
then
ship
send them
ground.
back through the air once they're resolved.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, these came out.
I just sent one of mine in.
All right. Now, conference slide. So, as we mentioned last time, MacDuck videos are still up.
The iron.
So, the WWDC videos have been posted. So, Mac deployment, there's just slides up there. I don't know if they're gonna have video.
That reminds me, I forgot to add this. The transcripts, the searchable transcripts for the WWDC videos are available.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Sweet.
Yes, that's true. Mac
I like
Ups,
that they do that.
Mac DevOps YVR, all those videos were posted, so you can go watch those. And the PSU Mac Admin videos were all posted, so you can watch those. And then coming up next is Mac System in Gutenberg. That's in October. And then JNUC, Jamf Nation User Conference, that's in November this year. Apparently there are still tickets available. Good luck with the hotel though. But,
Doubletree's still available.
and also MacTech, also in October, the MacTech conference in LA. So there was a lot of Apple content at the Black Hat. There were several different talks about that. I don't know if any of that stuff has been videoed. Because there were some Apple folks presenting, so I don't know if that's ever going to make the light of day. But there might be some white papers that show up later. So, and we are now in our open discussion time. So who has
One
back?
thing I would love to put in the items of interest is the Apple finally provided a document for enterprise
Oh,
networking.
that's right.
Basically, they went over all of the servers and ports needed, what they do, and if they're proxy aware. And they have a nice list of everything there now. Finally,
Right.
and it also puts right at the top. That says, deep packet inspection will break everything. Stop doing it.
Yes.
So If you really need that, look it up on Apple's website. I don't know, I'm sure we could post a link somewhere, but
I've got it.
it is
Because I need it.
awesome.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
Except, just make sure your security people listen to it.
Yes.
I have something to add. If you're on Jamf Cloud and you're using a hotspot, and your hotspot doesn't have a really good signal, it is very sensitive. DEP and Jamf are both very sensitive, and they will time out very quickly, and you will not get your page, your remote page. It'll go right to data and privacy. I was talking to one of the engineers at Jamf. He's saying we're trying to fix that. They're actually coming out. I don't think it's that with the next point increase, but they said they are aware of it and they are working on it. Cool. Because if I have a hotspot on my Verizon, and my building is covered in anti-cellular goo, and so I don't get any signal, and as a result, I just timed out. We're trying to get repeaters in there.
We just did that.
You know.
I just like that you said anti-cellular goo.
Because that's what it is.
It is goo.
This is a new building. This is like the 10-year-old building. I mean, so be aware of that. If you're using a hotspot and you have less than 3 bars, don't bang your head against the wall if it's going right to data and privacy.
Well,
Okay?
we have a lot of repeaters for all the different carriers in our buildings. Because after a certain point, you know, the cell towers stop reaching. Because we are above the cell towers.
That's funny.
Repeaters up all the way.
That's funny.
Yeah. We have a lot of those. So. I
The
remember the one day when some of the repeaters went down and people were very upset. So
Had to go down to the first floor to make a phone call.
there were a lot of tickets open that day.
Had to go to phone booth?
You worked late.
Okay, I got something.
Yes.
In the virtualization channel, I caught this week that Mike Roy from VMware
Yes.
said that they're not doing a tech preview for Fusion and that they're going to GA pretty soon. And he said, we think folks will like what we've been cooking up, especially existing Fusion 11 customers.
Okay.
So,
Very vague, but good news.
so I guess Parallel's beaten to it.
I think it sounds like Parallels beat them to the punch for Catalyst support, but
That's not unusual though. Parallels usually releases 4 to 6 weeks ahead of VMware for major releases.
Is VMware still open source? Do they still have what they do? They're all closed now, right?
Well,
Yeah, they're all
VMware
company?
is closed.
Yeah.
I think maybe you're talking about
VirtualBox.
VirtualBox.
Oh, no.
VirtualBox still exists.
ESXi used to be based on Linux, but they ran into some licensing issues and they closed sourced it.
Looking forward to when they certify ESXi in the new Mac Pro.
Apparently, they're having real trouble with it on the current Mac Mini.
Yeah, the T2 chips don't give them access to storage with the Thunderbolt ports.
Yep.
Right.
And Apple will work with them on it. So I think what they're waiting on is, I guess, some version of Linux out of T2 support.
Better
somehow.
news.
Oh.
The thinking is that you might be able to pull from
Yeah, I think that's a driver thing.
Personally,
I think like they
bring
have
them back.
developed a driver for T2 on Linux. So,
They did certify the Mac Minis, the previous Mac Minis.
the previous Mac Minis are now certified. They weren't before.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, but big news. Not the new ones, but if you happen to have like what a 2014.
I think you might still be able to buy some of the old Mac Minis somewhere.
It's like actually in the officially supported
Okay.
hardware page there,
Well, that's good.
along with the 2013 Mac Brothers.
And just in time for them to be retired. Well, the 2013 Mac Pros have always been certified.
I think so.
Anything else?
Any NDA stuff?
We're
still
we
recording.
can talk about
We're not live.
There's a lot of stuff we can talk about, Ken.
Yeah.
It's not really under NDA anymore. But how is everybody's Catalina testing?
Oh, anybody running Catalina on their daily driver yet?
Not
No.
yet.
No.
But I have like.
I'm debating.
They just
doing
came out
it.
with I don't know, I just got another seed email today. They came out with another beta?
No.
Okay, what was it
No,
for?
Beta 5, or is it Beta 4 for public? I don't know. The Apple Seed is now at Beta 5.
Yeah, I think developers still beta 5 too.
Yeah, they
is
are
huge.
overdue for a beta release.
Yeah, because usually it's every 2 weeks.
Roughly, yeah.
Yeah.
So they're overdue for a beta build.
That might have been the greatest thing they've ever done.
Public
Like
beta?
allowing to get to the seed without having to get an invitation,
Oh,
which
yeah.
was which was few and far between.
Well, even when I was promised an
You know, I
invitation,
mean,
I
that's,
didn't get one.
I mean, that was huge. I
Yep.
mean, I'm able to grab stuff that there's no way, I mean,
Yes.
even with my developer account, I wouldn't be able to do it.
I'm sure a lot of the discussions we've had with, Apple, Jerry Butcher and their recent hires probably had something to do with that, maybe a large part to do with that. So, they're definitely
Whatever it is,
making more efforts to listen to us and respond to us.
Yeah.
I can only hope that continues. So,
Yeah.
because I mean, there's still lots of other things that are problematic, but at least they're now making efforts, and hopefully we can address all that stuff too. But
Testing's been going okay at least.
What's
I mean,
has
I've still
anybody-
got a whole lot of
I haven't
other
had
issues.
time to
What's,
really
what's
test
the
it.
EP
has anybody
enrollment?
found anything that breaks Catalina?
Not yet.
Everything 32-bit based. but
Well,
that's-
yeah.
Well, no, but that doesn't. But
That's not breaking
Catalina
it.
runs.
Yeah.
But the apps don't run, right?
I'm
You don't
more
have. There's
concerned
nothing
with my
that's.
network.
There's nothing that's prevented
Because I have Cisco
for
ISO
operation.
authentication.
Yeah, I know.
Is there?
So,
Run
Well,
Catalina?
I heard you
I've
asked a
done
question
really,
about
really light
being a dev
testing.
notified.
I've heard talk of some security agents causing boot issues.
oh, we're not really focusing
So
on that.
that's-
everything I've tested and tested the semantic DLP agent, the 15.5 version.
Thank you.
That's not notarized. Those kernel extensions aren't notarized, so they don't load. So
90 providers.
it boots fine.
So wait, you use semantic?
DLP doesn't work.
Oh, okay, yeah.
DLP never
No.
works.
So it's not the latest version of semantic, but if you have the second to latest version of semantics info protection,
Okay.
that works in Catalina. Anything less than that,
Doesn't.
and it does not.
But the newest version doesn't also?
Well, I don't have the newest
Oh, okay.
version.
What's the latest? It's 14.2 MP1 RU1 or something?
Something like that. So
Stupid.
we have like
I'm not
14.2
kidding.
dot
No, I-
3.5 dot.
Yeah, ours
Ridiculous
is,
name.
our latest one is MP1, and then they're like, oh, there's a fix for MP1 RU1. I'm like, okay, are you kidding me? And so we found that our DLP doesn't work because they don't staple.
So yeah, that's the whole thing. The DLP kernel extensions are signed; they're just not notarized.
Right, because why would your vendor that you're paying thousands of dollars to do their job?
I mean, they're already
Are they
signed.
notarizing
That's
but
so
not
stupid.
They're notarizing but not stapling.
That
So
makes
can
no
you do
sense.
the stapling yourself?
No,
because a
no.
lot of DLP does not give you a package. They give you usually some
Right, and
So you don't get a
vendors
package, you
complained
get
about
code.
Apple allowing anybody to staple or notarize their packages. So you have to. So
Just don't do it.
if you
It's
make
easier.
the package,
it is literally
notarize it.
like a two-step
if
process.
you make the software
Good,
package,
it's
it-
Not
good,
as
it's
much
good,
with the training, but I
PSU,
gotta go put the heat
talk
on the ground.
We have, and there's
We
still.
we have to, it's,
So-
they just won't do it.
So like-
I'm
so
not
we-
even notarized.
It's
Because what, you can't use it anyway.
Well, because we go.
If the
PSU
developer
talk,
does
that was
the
really good.
notarization, because you can't do the notarization on their behalf.
yes.
We
If
can
they
do the
don't staple the
So,
ticket, you can staple the ticket yourself.
so
Yeah.
Mike, stapling's
Yeah,
great
very good.
if you can do it,
Overview on that.
because, but if you get something like, so I'll give you an example. Our DLP software, they went to install it, they send us a bash script
Yep.
that is 40 megabytes. Because what they do is it's a script with a package basically built into it at the end.
Right.
So-
Well, SEP does the same thing.
God.
Right, so when
McAfee
you,
does the
when
same
you
thing.
install it, you just run a script and it unpacks it that way. So you can't staple a script.
Right.
You need the package and they won't give you the
They want,
package.
McAfee does the same thing.
See, I thought
You know, you
I
can't-
thought SCP was bad.
There's nothing to
That's-
staple
that's
it to.
really
No, I mean
horrible.
like
SCP at least gives you a package to
SCP
create.
gives you a
Yeah.
package, but it's an unsigned package.
Right,
SCP
they give you an unsigned
gives you an
package.
installer and you can build a package
Well, wait.
from their installer.
And
They
that
give
package is
you,
unsigned.
they give you an installer that allows you to build a
Build
package,
the
yes,
package,
and yeah, he
yeah.
said it's unsigned and everything.
Oh, yeah, but you can't deploy that with your management tools?
You can.
If you wipe it out.
And I sign that package that I get out of the installer just to be safe.
Also,
But
if you-
if it requires to be notarized,
Yep. if you also whitelist, if you don't whitelist stuff, like if you can't, not having APNS, doesn't work anyway, period, because it's not
So
notarized.
the semantic DLP extensions, because they're signed, if you whitelist them on 10.14.5 and 6, they will run. They do not run in Catalina because they are not notarized.
Oh, right, because you need whitelisting and notarization in 15.
Right. No, I mean they're whitelisting, yes, because you need
But
both.
you need both,
You
is
need
what I'm
both,
saying, yeah.
yeah.
So that's the thing is, so, like, our DLP doesn't even work on 10, 14, 15, or
That's
10,
right.
14, 5,
Yes.
because
Say-
it's not stable.
John and I are living the same lives.
Yeah.
I got the same exact problem.
So
Yeah.
when we're working with our vendor, we're talking with our vendor like, hey, do you notarize? Oh, we've been notarizing for several versions. We're like, okay, great. And I run it through a thing. It's like, well, is this? I can't test it because they lock it down or it doesn't come with the package. And they're like, do you staple it? Oh no, we don't staple that. What's the point?
What's the point of notarizing?
And also like so, and I know notarization. If you haven't notarized app, it'll reach out to Apple and check it. That's great if you have that ability, but when you're setting up a computer for the first time and you're putting the DLP on there, you don't have proxies, you don't have network connectivity outside, especially if you have a very secure environment, you don't have a direct connection to Apple anyway.
That's why I don't even bother installing it, because it doesn't even.
Well, so the problem we have is now we're in the struggle of, we need to install this, and they're like, well, it's not working. No, you need to install this. Well, it's not working. Why isn't it working? Because we can't whitelist it, and we don't have it stapled. Well, fix it. Well, we can't. That's their excuse to us. That's what we have to tell them is we can't fix it because it's not our job. It's the vendor's job.
What does DLP do?
It's data loss prevention. So it basically it protects. It basically watches uploads and downloads. And also copies USB and stuff.
It's also,
Right.
you can be Mr. Burns with it, if you really know what you're doing with it, so.
It sounds like their target market for a DLP product is exactly the kind of market that wouldn't be able to have internet connectivity to actually check
Exactly.
notarization.
Yep.
Good.
Well, what's funny is that the company we use, they were like, well, we don't see this issue, and we're testing it, blah blah blah. And I'm like, let me guess, you guys have an open connection to Apple, don't you? And it's like, and our company doesn't. So, still, they never will because no. Also, I just got word that they're going to not stop packet inspection on 443.
Oh, that's great.
Yep.
Oh. Great.
So I was like, all right, cool. So Office is going to break.
See you next month.
APNS will never work. Updates will never work on the Mac side. Microsoft updates will probably stop working eventually too if they go that route. Because Office, I think, uses certificate pinning.
Speaking of
I don't know.
Microsoft, and Microsoft and security agents.
They have a security agent?
So apparently some security agents, can't do SHA-256. So the recent Microsoft update patches for Windows was breaking security.
So they just disable it.
Yes.
Well, no, they set it up so
other way. The security
It'll-
agents were preventing the download and installation of the updates because it's like SHA-256. What is this?
What is this?
It's like this is
Yeah.
a virus,
And-
I'm
and-
yanking it.
yeah, and Microsoft adjusted the update settings so that devices with
Jesus shot.
those security agents on them won't even try to apply those patches.
Yep.
Until the vendor fixes it.
Security.
Yeah, security agents are great, everyone. That's the rule you should get. I mean, that is
Yeah.
the
So
thing
I
you
think
should get from this.
I think that might be covered in the Fleetsmith article where security agents are a threat vector. The more agents you have, the wider your attack surfaces.
Yep.
Yep. I can definitely vouch for that. Also, how many kernel panics we see. And also, how many times my CPU is pinned because
Well-
a process they have a known defect that CPU may run anywhere between 100 and 400% at any time randomly. How do you fix it? Reboot. Oh, and then
Well,
they fixed it. And in the latest version, the known defect
and
is...
this is the reason why Apple is coming out with system extensions.
Yeah, which I've already asked my DLP company, like, have you guys even, like, looked at this yet? And they're like, oh yeah, we're looking at those. Like, okay, sure. But the fix that they have for that CPU overrun, the latest version has a known defect, and the known defect is rarely causes data corruption. What? And it literally says that. In rare cases will cause data corruption. You're a DLP software. How is that a bug?
Yep. That's why Apple wants everybody out of the kernel.
Yeah.
Everybody but them out of the kernel.
Yep. You can't be trusted. We're taking it away.
Yep. So circa whatever 1016 is going to be called. There's probably going to be it'll be interesting to see how many security companies actually have a compatible version with whatever 1016
So,
is going to be called.
yeah, I mean, who here works in an environment where if all your security stack is not on a machine, you can't deploy a machine?
We're getting there. We will be there for conditional access at some point. We need to have some things installed.
Do you have, I mean, you probably can't share, but do you have a lot of security stuff on your machines?
We don't.
But that's going to change
we have
probably.
Well, we only have 2 security agents on at the moment. And we're
Antivirus and
probably
DLP.
gonna add DLP shortly.
DLP seems to be the standard one that a lot of big companies have usually.
Yes.
DLP's evil.
We've been talking about it as a possibility.
DLP?
Yeah,
At a university?
one of the things that semantic DLP
We're
does.
gonna not roll it out separately from something else, but roll it out as part of like
Just
a backup solution.
Make sure you go through one that's a Mac program, not a Windows company that makes a Mac software. Like what's
it
the
might
name?
be like a Code 42 or something.
Well,
like
there's another one.
Well, you can use OS Query for DLP, but it's passive DLP.
Right.
Basically, you can check.
It's
the
already
logs.
done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I would.
But that's still like you can do discovery and say it's like, oh, you took this stuff, so
Right.
Then it becomes a HR legal issue at that point.
Yeah.
See, I mean,
But that's still leverage.
and that's the thing so like how at least our settings are is you have to have exceptions to write to USB media, and if you don't have an exception, you can't. Period. To upload, when you upload, it basically asks you, why are you uploading this? And you have to provide it, and then if they'll, but that's a passive type of thing.
Right.
Same with downloading is once you download it, you have to give a reason.
But
It's
like
not like somebody sitting there looking at it every time.
But I think all the next gen DLP stuff is not really concerned about preventing exfiltration
Just finding,
as just basically
Proving.
finding it and proving it. Because what's stopping anybody from taking their cell phone and just going click?
Right, and that's one of the arguments that we use. This is like,
You're not going to be able to stop it from leaving if they're really determined to leave with it.
like we literally just allowed Bluetooth devices on our Macs because it took them that long to approve it. We have to disable AirDrop, of course, but you also couldn't do AirDrop and disable AirDrop and have Bluetooth on until 10.13. So.
Well, iMacs ship with wireless mice and keyboards, and they have for like a couple years now. We're
Yep.
like only if you're allowed.
Right. So what's interesting is when you disable the Bluetooth panel, you could still pair things to it like your mouse and keyboard, but you can't use headsets. So we're a very heavy video/audio meeting company. So if you can't pair headsets, you're always tethered to something. So so when we enabled Bluetooth headsets, people were like, you guys are gods! Oh my God! They were loving us, and we're like, oh, we'll take that. We need any victory we can take. So, but I mean, it was one of the best things that people got out of us, and it was just literally a checkbox.
Does Apple even sell a wired keyboard anymore?
If you're buying for.
Does Apple sell a wired keyboard
it's
anymore?
Amazon, they'll sell you a wired
Yeah, I
keyboard.
think they do, but it's not on their webpage, or at least
They'll
He said they
they'll
sell
sell
it.
it.
Yeah.
I could see it.
You can probably buy it.
You
You just
can.
can't.
Computers
Okay.
and Bluetooth.
I forgot, we can ask.
So here's what I would say: don't buy the $130 wireless Apple keyboard. Sorry, buy the $140
wired keyboard.
No, the $140.
I think so. We haven't bought menus in a while, but
The
we
big
bought
clicky
iMacs.
clack one that I had. I have 2 of them at my office. I spent like $160 on giant mechanical keyboards that I could kill someone with.
That's not.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
I don't get the obsession with mechanical keyboard.
Wow, just the feeling is so good.
Laptop keyboard. I have a monitor, I disable the
Man.
I just don't like.
Can you get it from the store?
I love
If you
my.
sell it, it's not in store.
Yeah.
Third party, right? Oh,
It-
okay.
it-
So
yeah, it might have to be
See-
third party. It's not on the website. 'cause it's not in store.
I love my mechanical keyboard, my Cherry MX keyboard keys.
So she's the person.
I can't take the,
I hate that keyboard.
Which one?
That's the
I don't
laptop
mind that.
keyboard.
I don't like that.
I hate it.
actually, I like this one, I can't stand.
I can't stand that one. I hate,
We
I
have
hate
Mike
typing
Wall,
and then
but
having
we
to
have,
go up two
Christine
levels,
Young
having to
as
type
our,
there.
The
but
DOS
then I
keyboard,
can't.
of course.
Oh, okay.
How did I miss the name? DOS keyboard.
Yep, I know that
I think
one.
Scott,
That was like a.
It's the same price as the Apple wireless keyboard. So,
It's,
you know.
it's DAS, as it, like,
yeah.
I'm dating
By the way,
myself, and you, remember we had this conversation?
Well, so my
Yeah.
favorite keyboard of all
Even
time is the
baby
Apple II
favorite
Extended Pro keyboard, which is the one that's like big as this table.
Oh, I love
and it has that massive steel plate in the bottom.
Oh, yeah, I
Is it?
remember that.
That's why it's so heavy.
Oh God.
It's got like an 1/8 inch steel plate.
What I also
I
love-
type heavy on that.
Well, what I also love is that the caps lock key, it locks down.
Yep.
Ah.
It's such an awesome keyboard. It's ADB, ADB. Yep, that's top box.
I found my ADB to USB adapter.
Nice.
Those things are like $70 now.
Yeah, I found it when
Or
I was
still.
I found it
Still,
when I was
yeah.
at my office the other day. It was like, I'm going to save this.
You should, because you never know when you're going to need Apple Talk again.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
somebody like that's like, oh, we have repairs.
So, I still have my old Power One booting box. Last time I powered
Really?
it, it still boots. Still booted.
Yeah, that's funny. That's funny.
So, and it has the 3 and the 1/4 inch floppy drive, and I just found a whole bunch of
What?
floppies.
Oh, should I stop recording, by the way?
Yeah, might as well.